Welcome. Thanks for coming to our webinar on instilling pride in your workforce. Welcome and thank you to our community-based partners across the United States, especially our partners. If you are attending this webinar because you've been invited by a local chamber of commerce, thank them and thank you for being here. If you're here because of an association or other member group that you're a part of, again, thank that association as well. We are on a mission to make the world a better place to work, and we're doing that through a network of partners around the region and the United States who believe what we believe, which is that better culture leads to better business. And so thanks for being here. This is one of my most passionate subjects. This is a specialty of better culture. You don't hear this from most other leadership trainers or workshops. And by this, I mean the importance of building pride in your workforce if you want to have a tremendous culture. So that's what you're here for today. This is a special subsection of what we teach, what we believe, what we consult on, what we train on. And I think you're going to get a lot of value out of today's session. So let's get going. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of introductory time. I have 4 or 5 slides in here, just stage setting. But you probably wouldn't be here if you don't understand or agree that having a terrific workplace culture, the type of environment that people want to be a part of and feel compelled to give their best efforts toward, is valuable to everybody involved. It's valuable to businesses and business owners because having a more engaged workforce is helps you produce higher quality products and services, be more innovative, deliver higher customer satisfaction, lots of business metrics there. It's also better for every employee. If you can have a great place to work, enjoy your job, enjoy your colleagues, it improves quality of life in an almost immeasurable, in a good way, right? Peter Drucker, one of the earliest management consultants that sort of set out early on to say maybe management could be more than just deploying labor in factories, etc. And was one of the early sort of fathers of the management consulting leadership development industry. Used to say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you've heard that quote before, Mr. Drucker is who it came from, but we really believe that's true. And flashing forward until very, very present day, this quote's from 2016 because it's my favorite. It rolls everything into one, but research continues to pour in this direction. That essentially Forbes, via a compilation of a bunch of research, said, citing mountains of research, just about any measure that you or an organization can undertake that improves the life and or satisfaction of an employee will in turn improve that employee's performance and buoy the organization as a whole. That is about as clean and crisp as I can get on the value of workplace culture. And I always like to lead off my webinars by starting there. There is value to the business and value to the employees in focusing on what can we do to create an even better workplace culture. So if culture eats strategy for breakfast, and if culture owns talent, again, just about anything that you can do to help improve culture will help you attract, build, motivate, and keep great talent, then the question becomes, who owns culture? Who is it that can influence and build this asset to the organization that we call culture? Now, depending on the audience and the presentation, sometimes my next click here says different things. In general, the answer is everybody. The caveat to that is oftentimes organizations really should be thinking about, is there one specific person that's driving the strategy behind culture? If you're interested in a side conversation around that, we're building a whole side of our business that's going to be designed just for the one person inside an organization that wants to own and drive culture. So that's true. What is also true is everybody can be and is responsible for their impact on culture. And so today we're going to talk about a really great approach to helping build pride that everybody can contribute to. I come from a background as a founder of this business. I had a chance to work for an organization in Omaha called QLI that was voted 5 times consecutively. It wasn't 5 years in a row. It was just the only 5 times that they played in the best places to work competition. They were named the #1 best place to work. And my big claim to fame in association with QLI, for those of you that don't know me or know BetterCulture or know Mindset, our sister company, is that my father, Dr. Kim Hoogeveen, was the founding president and CEO of QLI back in 1987, and was the CEO there until 2010, through all of those, the first 4 out of 5 of those #1 best place to works. My father and I and my brother decided, what could we do to expand this mission, to make a bigger impact on other organizations, to share ideas learned at QLI, but learned from a lot of other places as well. So we started a consulting company called Mindset in 2011, and in 2020 launched our digital business, BetterCulture, that you're interacting with today. In all of that, and thank you for being here, you're a part of our mission of trying to make the whole world a better place to work. And we're making an impact on that every single day. So that's prologue, a little bit of introduction of kind of what you're in for and what we have going on today in our program. I want to just outline where we're going to go now forward. I touched on the value of culture. The next probably 5 minutes or so, I'm going to share and ask you guys to participate a little bit and guess with me a little bit on some data around culture in general and figuring out where pride fits into that data set. The bulk of this presentation is I'm going to be focusing on giving you guys 5 really valuable takeaways and techniques that you can use or that others in your organizations can use to help employees feel more connected and more proud of where they work. And that's really where the rubber meets the road is, okay, interesting, Brett, what should we do? Give me some practical advice. There will be 5 practical nuggets in the middle of this presentation. Toward the end, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of working time. I'm going to shut up for just a few minutes at least and let you guys think a little bit about, is there something I'd like to take away from this presentation and do? Mostly use one of those 5 techniques and make a plan to put it into action and see how it works for you. And I'll close with a little bit of a Q&A. If there's questions, if you've got them, I am really bad at monitoring the chat during my presentation. I will try to check in on it. So ask questions as we go, but especially at the end. So that's an either or. And you can always use the Q&A as well. There's a chance I'll see that one as well as it comes through. So here we go. Kicking off on the data side. All right. One of the services that we've provided for the last decade is we have worked with organizations to help them measure the health of their culture. Now, when we do our BetterCulture survey to give employers a snapshot of how their employees feel about their company, we ask 49 questions in our base survey. And those 49 questions get mapped via an algorithm into 14 domains where we can present data on. So for instance, these are those 14 domains, and I sure hope that there's 14 check marks on that screen. I don't think I left anything off. Looks like it. So essentially we can give them a score on retention risk. What could we gather via your employee responses on how likely they are to stay in their current job or role or position, or at least with the organization, versus, I don't know, how open are they to taking employment elsewhere? How proud are they? It's going to be a focus for today. Do they feel there's unnecessary conflict, too much conflict, maybe even possibly, not very often, but possibly not enough conflict? People that are not willing to speak their mind or disagree or innovate enough. Is it innovative enough? Do employees feel like their opinion is valued, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Team chemistry, C-suite, are performance standards fair? How do people feel about their leaders and supervisors? Do people feel appreciated and valued and seen? How do they feel about their work environment? Whether that's physical environment or the relationships that surround them. And the last 2 are about how are we managing talent? Are we promoting the right people? Are there opportunities for me to grow and develop inside the system? Now, all of these 14 things are important to workplace culture. If there's one on there that you don't think is important to workplace culture, you'll have to connect with me afterwards. But these are the big 14 things that we bubble up. Now, my question for you all, if you would put it in the chat for me, is which one of these 14 things, if you could only focus on one, which one do you think is the most important when it comes to culture? And go ahead and just type it in the chat. Any one of those 14 titles. And if you want to shorthand it, I could probably interpret that as well. Okay, so I've got feeling appreciated, feeling appreciated, feeling appreciated, pride, growth and advancement, pride, pride, feeling appreciated, work environment. Appreciate you guys, and a few more coming through here as well. Work environment. Well, keep putting them in the chat. I'm going to keep monitoring what you guys are saying. Growth, another one. And let me give you my interpretation of what we see in the survey results. What we see in the survey results is all of these are, extremely might not be the right word, but all of these are significantly positively correlated with healthy culture. Okay, if they weren't, they wouldn't be in the survey results. So essentially, there's not really a wrong answer. And for certain employees or subsets of your employees, any one of these 14 things could be the most important measure. So there's not a clear black and white answer. That being said, when we analyze our data and we break down the data statistically, now it's not me that knows how to do this, but on our team and with our partners, we look at the data from hundreds of companies that we've worked with, and we've mapped out the questions. We've looked at kind of where their total culture score is, and then how these 14 subdomains break out. The one area that if you want to focus on per our data that shows that accounts for the highest amount of the variance in the total pride score, or I'm sorry, the total culture score is, let me work on my animation here. This is a big dramatic one, okay? I've got little kids, so get ready. Is pride, okay? Pride is the big dog. Essentially, if you just wanted to focus on one thing, now all of this matters, but one thing where we're going to say, okay, are your employees proud to work where they work? Are they proud of what they do? Are they proud of the people they work with? And if the answer to that is an overwhelming heck yeah, odds are overwhelming that you have a tremendously healthy culture. If the answer to that question about pride is no, not really, candidly, I don't really like to tell people where I work, then odds are you really have an unhealthy culture. Now, the other things all matter, but the reason we really like to focus on pride is because you can build it intentionally. Most companies don't. They don't really know how to do this effectively. Most leaders don't know how to do it effectively. And third, it really, really matters. And we all can make a dent in this. We all can do things to help people be more proud of the work they do and where they work. Okay, so that's where we're going today. In fact, the 7 principles of leadership that are at the heart of everything that BetterCulture does from a leadership development standpoint. Our second principle of leadership says leaders focus on creating an environment where their staff, where their employees are proud of their company and know that their company is proud of them. So for those of you that said feeling recognized and appreciated, that's the flip side of what we call the pride coin, okay? Because it's our second principle. Know that they feel they are proud of their company and know their company is proud of them. So there's really 2 sides of the pride coin. Interestingly, back to this other slide, that feeling appreciated would be the second or third most important factor if we looked at just that total pride score and the variance relative to that. So if you're in a leadership role and there's one thing you want to make sure you get right, it's this concept of pride. Employees being proud of where they work and knowing that their managers, their company, their peers are proud of them, feeling recognized and appreciated. If you're doing those 2 things well as a manager, you're doing really, really well, okay? Those of you that want to see that animation again, there you go. So here is an important question. If we're going to focus on building pride, then the question becomes, well, proud of what, Brett? Proud of what should my employees be proud of? What are they already proud of? What should they be more proud of? So I ask you guys the question, and I'd like you to think of, you can either think of yourself, you can think of a specific employee that you work with or for, you can think of a subset of employees, or you can try to think about all the employees of your organization. What do you think are the things that they should be most proud of in your organization? And if you're able, I'd love you to put that in the chat just so I can get a sense of what's going on in your minds. So when I say, what should your employees be most proud of? Give me generic answers. Don't give me a paragraph on, well, don't tell me a story. Just say something like, our buildings are cool, or our products are the best in the industry, or, something about people, or give me kind of a generic snapshot. All right. And I'll report back what we're getting here through the chat. Allison says that we really value our employees. Morgan's talking about customer service, the over and beyond customer service that we provide. Cassandra is talking about our real commitment to children. That's absolutely something that makes people proud. High quality of services, says Jamelia. The culture we have, says probably Vaughn. The program that we offer is great. Okay, these are all great answers. Okay, and I want you guys to keep thinking about these things as I go forward. I've developed a bit of a list that we use when I'm doing training or consulting. Okay, we got more coming through. The care and the amenities we offer are exceptional. Our customers say that they love our bank, love it. The mission that we focus on, we're proud of our mission, okay, especially in the nonprofit space. That tends to be a real source of pride for folks. And it can be in the for-profit space too, just especially in the nonprofit space. So let me show you just a list that feel free to peruse this as I go through of other things you might want to think about. When I ask this question, I keep kind of a running list of the common themes that I hear. And I've already heard, 6 or 7 of these from you guys today. So we're proud of our mission, of our vision, where we're going, of the values that we're founded on, the things that matter to us, of our history, and specifically, I'm going to talk about this more later, but specific moments, not our generic history, a story, a moment, a something that made a difference or an imprint on who we are today and who we'll be in the future. Our culture, the great people that we work with, how we recognize and celebrate people, how we develop and invest in people, how we promote from within, maybe. Our safety record, our executive team and the way that they care about our people. Maybe we have a great founder story. Maybe there's values there that permeate the organization. Maybe we have a great flat structure, open door policy. Maybe we offer great work-life balance. Maybe we're really, really good at providing opportunities for people to feel included, and that we have a diverse workforce, and that we've made major strides on issues related to equity or other issues. Maybe we're really invested in giving back to the community. Hope you guys realize I got a big list here, okay? We're making great impact on the environment or society that matters to us. Okay, we're mission driven even outside of our own mission. Maybe we make a big impact on the lives of the stakeholders, that our customers or our employees or the folks that we interact with. Maybe we're best in class products and services. Maybe we have amazing new facility we just opened up that we're in love with. Maybe we just operate at a high level of excellence. We're innovative. We've got a big market share. We're growing fast. We've got big opportunities in sight that we're excited about. We're just crushing it financially. We're strong. We're robust. We're profitable. We own intellectual capital or property, patents that we're proud of. We're innovators in the thought space. Maybe we run a really lean or efficient organization. Maybe we've got innovative approaches to compensation or bonusing or recognizing people, unique benefits. We involve people in decisions. I think you can see I got a good list here, and it keeps growing all the time. Well, when I talk to organizations and I say, look, what should your employees be proud of? Executives are pretty good at giving me a list of 6, 7, 8 things. That comes pretty naturally. The next 8 or 10 don't come quite as quickly, takes some pulling, but usually we can come up with a list of 10 or 15 things about any organization that people really should feel great about. They should feel so proud of. But then the question becomes, well, are they? Are your employees proud of those things? And everybody kind of looks around and they say, well, we think so. And I say, guess what? We've been doing employee engagement surveys. We've been doing focus groups. I've interacted with a lot of employees, and I'll tell you, in almost every organization, there is a gap between what top level leaders think people should know and feel, and what people actually know and how they actually feel. There's an information gap. There's a pride gap. There's a feeling connected gap. And it's our job to figure out, how can we close that gap? And how can we close that gap? By doing things that help people actually feel connected to those 10 or 15 things that if they knew more about them, they would feel good about. If they had a story that was compelling to them, that resonated with them, they'd be more excited about it. It's one thing to just say, well, our employees should be proud of that. And then I guarantee if I walk down and talk to your newest 15 employees and say, hey, what do you know about this? It's a very rare organization where those 15 people all turn to me and go, oh my gosh, let me tell you why that's so amazing here. Most of the time they say, oh, I don't know much about it. So that information gap causes a real missed opportunity to help employees feel connected to your organization. We're going to dive into that here in another minute, okay? So what I'm going to focus on now for the next 20 minutes or so, maybe 15, 20 minutes, is 5 techniques that you can use to help your employees feel more proud. Now, don't forget this slide back here. If there was something on here that triggered something, maybe make a note. You can use this just on your team. Let's say you work with a team of 3 people. You can be a leader on that team, and you can help your employees feel more connected to their company and more proud by thinking of things they should be proud of and using these techniques to build that level of pride, okay? We like to say building culture is like molding with hot clay. It takes effort and energy and time to build it, but it can be ruined quickly. I think pride is the same way. Pride isn't built overnight, but it can be ruined overnight. I think Adidas is finding that out by their affiliation with Kanye West, if you've been listening to the news in the last few days. In general, most of the public does not like some things that he said recently, but he's got a brand associated with these big corporations and they're severing ties and distancing themselves. Well, there were probably people that had a lot of pride in what they were doing together, and all of a sudden, whoops, it's not a source of pride anymore. That's a source of embarrassment, disassociation. Took a lot of time to build it up. I don't know, took about one news cycle to tear it down. So anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. Anyway, so let me give you technique number 1 for helping to build the level of pride in your workforce. And technique number 1 is a simple one, but here's a truism. Okay? If you're going to really let one thing resonate from this whole presentation, it might be this. It is nearly impossible to feel proud of something about which you know little to nothing. So if you want employees on your teams and in your organization to feel a real sense of pride toward their company, and there's stuff that they should be proud of, but they just don't know it, whose fault is that? Is that the employee's fault that they don't know that information that they could know? Of course not. What are they supposed to do? Wander around saying, hey, can you tell me something to make me feel proud? Dig through old archives or news stories or, something in a dusty drawer somewhere? No, it's your onboarding team's job. It's your communications team's job. And it's every leader's job to share the information that if people heard it, and if it was transmitted in a compelling way, then they would feel good about it. Right? So that's what I want to focus on is, do you know your history? I've worked with many clients over the years that have had moments in their history. It could be their founding. It could be a tough time that they've come through or overcome. It could be a big pivot that they made. It could be a time that their back was against the wall and it looked like their company was going to fold, but then a new innovation happened. It could be something that a specific leader did to launch a new brand or a new initiative or to set the values or to model the values. It could be a time that an employee was having hard times and the company and the team members showed up for them to help. All of these things are examples of stories and history that I guarantee you, everybody on this call has stories of things that people in your organization have done that have made a real impact on a customer, on a peer or an employee, on you fill in the blank on what that impact has been. But it's a real missed opportunity to not be gathering the most influential and impactful of those stories and retelling them and resharing them on a regular basis with your employees. I was in a training with one of our larger clients a month ago, and I was in a group with 40 sort of, some of them were current leaders, others were emerging leaders. They'd been with the organization for a while. And we got to this point and I said, somebody tell me a story about your company. And a young lady raised her hand and she started telling a pretty emotional story about something that a small group of leaders had done for a specific employee who was very visible and well-known in the organization. And as she was telling the story, she was kind of emotional about it, in a good way, on just how moving and how impactful it was. And she told the story, the tense that she used, there was assumption baked in that everybody else in the room knew. Like she was telling me because I was the outsider, but everybody here kind of knows. And the room was just dead silent and people were really listening. And I got to the end of that and I said, I'm going to go out on a limb here, guys. Sometimes live training doesn't go the way you expect it will. But I just told you guys for the last 5 minutes that people don't know as much history as you think they do. How many of you heard that story just now for the first time? And 80% of the hands went up in the room. And the person who was telling the story, I said, is that what you expected? And she said, no, that's not what I expected. I thought everybody knew that story. And I said, is it important to you? And she said, yeah. I said, are the rest of you glad that you heard that or that you know that about your own company? And it was a unanimous, like, of course we are. My goodness, we had no idea that we had gone that far out of our way to help a team member in a moment of need, etc. This was a group of leaders in an organization that has a great culture, and they didn't know the stories. I could give you 100, well, I could give you 20 examples of clients that I've worked with. 100 might be an overstatement, of times when I've done that in a room where someone has shared a story that they feel like is so meaningful to how they view their organization and what they're proud of. And I turn to the rest of the room. Most of the time, at least half the room, and these are leaders, at least half the room doesn't know the story, never heard it, ever. How is that possible? So assignment number one, if you like this technique, is to think of a story, something that you think defines or makes your organization unique, and tell it. And even if you think the group has heard it, tell it anyway. Tell it again. Tell it regularly. Tell it to new employees, to new members of your team. Get in the habit of over-communicating these stories that represent who we are. It makes a big difference, and your audience does not. I promise you, you will overestimate how much your audience knows the story. Technique number two. This is a short one, but if you're in a position where you have access to information that is just interesting or noteworthy in some way, and it's not private or confidential, this is a simple technique where you can help somebody feel more connected to their company by just sharing information with them that they might find interesting, that they don't have a need to know, but that they might appreciate knowing. We call this bringing somebody inside the tent. Okay? So let's imagine you're in charge of a new marketing campaign that's going to go live next month. I suggest that instead of waiting until the official unveiling date, one at a time, at interesting intervals, when you're visiting with somebody around the office, just say, hey, would you like to see what we're going to roll out next month? And somebody will say, oh, really? Yeah, I'd love to. And make them feel important by letting people have access to information that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. If you can catch 15 or 20 people, let them under the tent early, that's 15 or 20 people that'll go, man, that was cool. My company values me. I'm proud that they care about taking the time to show me things like this. Okay? This could be the quarterly financials. This could be something with our vendor management solutions. This could be something about how we pour rock salt on the pavement in the winter. I don't know, but just stuff about here's things we think about that matter to us that otherwise you would never know. If you're privileged to that information, find a way to share it once in a while. If it's something somebody might be interested in learning, they will appreciate that you took the time just to show them something that you didn't have to, but you thought they might enjoy learning about. And number two, that extra effort of knowing that the company or managers or team members care enough to just kind of pull people under the tent will help people feel more connected to their company and more proud of where they work. So this is a very practical approach. We call it under the tent. If you have access to special information, try it. I think you'll find the results sort of surprising. Technique number three. This is a favorite of mine, and it always comes off. There's a risk that this comes off the wrong way. But I will plow ahead anyway. This is a little bit back to that knowing your history. And if people don't know the story, then you as a company or a management team aren't getting credit for it. The fact that you're doing it is very different than the fact that if you're getting any credit for it. And that's why there's this gap that exists between the culture people think they have and the culture that they actually have. It's an awareness gap. It's a getting the credit gap in many senses. So a great way to illustrate this, when we work with HR teams and we do our culture survey, one of the questions that we ask is about, does your company have, well, two questions. How happy are you with your benefits? And then a second question, which says, does your company offer special or unique benefits that other companies don't? And oftentimes, if I go to the HR team and I say, hey, tell me about your benefits. Do you offer good benefits? Most of our clients, not everybody, well, heck, our little company, BetterCulture, we offer terrible benefits, okay? So if you don't have great benefits, no big deal. We're a small business. But if you are, most of the clients we work with, they work pretty hard on their benefits. They try to offer healthy health insurance plans. They try to offer, and the HR team puts a lot of energy into that. And they may even have a broker that says, well, yeah, your insurance deductible and your other things, they put you in like the 90th, 92nd, 95th percentile, like this is a very healthy, good, valuable health insurance plan. And so the HR people, they feel pretty good about that, oh yeah, we work our tails off to really offer great benefits. And then I'm sometimes in the unenviable spot of bringing their survey results in and showing them what their employees think about their benefits, which is oftentimes, I don't know, kind of average. I'm not sure. And when we bring that into the HR team and they see, well, we know our benefits objectively are way better than average, but our employees just don't understand it. They don't appreciate it. That gap that exists, whose fault is that? How do we address that gap? If you want to put it in the chat, go ahead, but I'm not going to give you that long to enter your guess. That's a leadership issue. That's an HR team issue. That's a communication team issue because they're not communicating what they need to communicate in order to get the credit for the benefits they're offering. Again, if you don't educate me as an employee about what's special about my company, about the extra thought that our HR leader put into exactly what benefits we were going to offer that other companies don't. These are great messages for leaders to communicate throughout the system. Hey, an average deductible in our local marketplace is fill in the blank. I don't know what it is, $6,000 a family. And our main plan is $3,500 a family. That's quite a bit more valuable than the average in the marketplace. Or, hey, we offer some unique things that other employers don't. That's why I love working at our company, because we're always thinking ahead and offering things that aren't just normal today, but that will become the norm 10 years from now. Those kinds of messages make people go, wow, cool. I love working for a company that thinks and cares about me and offers unique benefits and offers above market benefits. But if you don't tell me that info, and I could show you the data is overwhelming that people know nothing about the quality of their benefits, then it's a missed opportunity to have that feeling of pride, to feel appreciated as well. So this is something, if you have a unique open door policy for executives, if you've got a good deal on free parking next to your office, if you offer flexible remote working, if you fill in the blank here, the things that you're doing for your employees, that they should be appreciating, if you don't draw the distinction between what's normal and what we're doing, you're probably not getting much credit for it. And that's a missed opportunity for pride. Because when employees are talking to their spouse, their siblings, their friends, their mom, their grandma, their kids, and they're talking about work, what you want them to be saying is, dang, let me tell you about the most amazing thing our company does that nobody else does. If you have employees talking like that, you're doing a good job of getting the credit for the things that you're doing. Okay. I talked a lot there. The big takeaway is it's not just doing the things or offering the things or being different. You actually have to talk about it and draw the distinction in order to get the credit so that employees actually appreciate it. Okay? If you don't, you do great things, but you do it anonymously or you don't ever get the credit. It's not employees' fault when they say, I don't know, my company's just kind of like everybody else. No, we're not. We're doing all this stuff. Get the credit. Okay. Next. Okay, these last two go together. And this is a really, really, really powerful way to both build pride and do the flip side of that pride coin, which is make sure that employees know that their company and their peers are proud of them. Okay, so this is a double bagger here. The fourth technique and the fifth technique are going to kind of go hand in hand. This one we call fish for compliments. Now, what would you think of someone who walked around fishing for compliments about themselves? If I wander around your workplace, let's say I'm one of your colleagues and I say, can you just tell me something great about me? What would you think of me? Would you think, yeah, Brett's just a fantastic guy? Or would you think, yeah, he's got a little bit of an ego? You'd probably think I have a little bit of an ego if I just wandered around always saying, what'd you think of that project I turned in? What'd you think of that email I wrote? Pretty snappy, wasn't it? What'd you think of that GIF I sent? Wasn't that funny? Now, fishing for compliments for yourself is not a virtue, okay? But fishing for compliments about your peers is something I would absolutely encourage you to do. If I were ever asked, to take a job as essentially like a chief culture officer in an organization, the number one thing that I would do inside that organization is I would walk around, if it was an actual in-person workplace, I would walk from department to department and knock on people's doors and say, hey, you got a sec? And chit chat. And I'd say, can you tell me like a couple stories about people that are just doing awesome things around here? And then I'd listen and I would take notes and I would go, wow, didn't know that about Mary. I didn't know Bart did that on the side. Oh, I didn't know. And I'd be collecting stories about my colleagues, my peers, people in different departments that are doing exceptional work, or that went above and beyond for a customer, or that just nailed it on a recent bid or project or sales call or whatever it is. Okay. Give me those stories about people doing great things. And I'm going to collect them. And then guess what I'm going to do with them? I'm going to go to number 5. I'm going to seek out these people who I've just been told a story about. And I'm going to go to them and I'm going to say, oh my goodness, I just knocked on Bob's door yesterday. And as we were chatting, I said, what's been going great around here? And he just wouldn't quit raving about the work you're doing with X client, or the sales call that you had with X, or the above and beyond job that you did on Y. Okay. Now, what am I doing with that? What's the upside? And if you guys wouldn't mind, so I know that you're still here in the chat, what's the upside of this? Fishing for compliments in one place and looping them back to the person who was complimented about in a secondhand fashion. Okay. I'm passing the compliment along secondhand. What's the value of this? Yeah. I'm just getting all kinds of good stuff here. All right. Yeah, peer recognition and support. That it feels more authentic. Yes. I don't know if you pull that out yourself or if you've been through our training before there, Cassandra. But yeah, it feels more authentic when you pass a compliment along secondhand. Because I don't have any, if you just go to somebody and say, hey, you're doing a great job, keep it up. That's probably authentic, but like, I don't know, you're about to ask me for a favor, or you just buttering me up, are you, etc. if somebody's saying great things about me when I'm not even there, what incentive could they have for that other than just being genuine, right? And then Brett's nice enough to come back and tell me about it. Yeah, the employee feels more appreciated and knows that the management recognizes their contribution to the culture. Yeah, absolutely, Rosie. Allison says people feel valued peer to peer, for sure. This is why, again, if there's just one thing I could encourage you to do in your workplaces, you don't have to be a chief culture officer to do this. Just when you work, especially outside of your own department, find an opportunity to fish for a compliment, to say, hey, who's great around here? Who's doing something exceptional? And when you hear that story, just convey it back and give the credit to the person who paid the compliment, not to yourself. Okay? What you're going to be doing is, number one, helping people feel appreciated and valued for the work that they do, which is hugely important. Number two, you'll be building a spider web of relationships, because those two people, that the only reason that one person complimented the other is because you kind of played a middleman role. You actually strengthened their relationship. You strengthen the relationship between yourself and those two people. And on top of it, you helped everybody involved feel more proud to be a part of the organization that they work for. People that hear that comment passed along, they think, man, yeah, I work with some great people. They think, oh, that manager who's passed along compliments, he's good to work for. They think I'm a nice guy. Oh, it's nice to work with somebody like Brett who takes the time to pass along that compliment. You start looking around, especially if this happens more and more, and you say, man, I work with some awesome people. I'm hearing lots of compliments. There's lots of great people that are thoughtful enough to pass those along. We're supportive of one another. We have these good, nice, clean relationships that we all appreciate. I must work at a pretty great place. And I'm proud of that, right? So that sense of pride gets built as you increasingly just start to have better relationships and appreciate the people that you work with. So I'll grant you, this one is a little bit that flip side of the pride coin, about helping people understand and know that their company is proud of them, their peers are proud of them as well. Okay, but it's really, really powerful, right? So those are my 5 steps. All right, and I'm going to ask you guys. I know this is a little awkward on a workshop, but or on a webinar, but I'm just going to ask you to take 2 or 3 minutes without me yapping. I'm going to take a drink of water. To just try thinking about how you can apply this concept in your workplace. And so I want you first just to think about somebody or a group of people that you can impact. If you're a manager or if you're a CEO, you might have a big scope of people you can impact. If you're an individual contributor, maybe it's just a couple colleagues that you have lunch with. That's fine. Whoever it is that's in your sphere that you think you can impact, think of that group, okay? Then I want you to ask the question that I asked you all. What do you think that group of people would want to be proud of? What do you think are the things that if they knew more about, they'd really feel great about? So that's step 2. Step 3 is then use one of these techniques that I have on the screen that I just went through. Could you tell them a story or some history that you're aware of about the company? Could you pull them under the tent and give them some extra info that they might appreciate? Could you share something to help the company get extra credit for something that maybe they don't know the company actually tries really hard to accomplish? Could you fish for a compliment or pay something around secondhand? That again would build that feeling of pride, right? So I'm going to give you guys 2 or 3 minutes to just quietly reflect, with the goal is that you're going to do step 4, which is you're going to go take an action to try this, to see if you can just build a little bit of pride, a little more pride in your workforce. So I'm going to stop talking, give you 2 minutes. As you're working on this little workshop time, if a question pops into your mind, feel free to put that in the question and answer section as well, or save it till the very end of the last 5 minutes for Q&A. Either way, just as you're trying to apply this, if you're having a question or two that pops into mind, please put it in the chat. I'd love to try to discuss something relevant to the content here that you're having a question about. All right. Well, hopefully you guys have come up with a little bit of an action plan. If not, finish it up after the webinar, after the call. But the number one thing I want to encourage you all to do is take action, is to do whatever it is that you're brainstorming about or thinking about. Find the time to try to use one of these techniques, because the more we practice it, in many ways, leadership is like muscle memory. The more times we try something, the more times we practice something, the more comfortable we get, the easier it gets, the faster it gets, the better we get, the better impact we get. So in many ways, these ideas around how to build pride, it's not going to be natural the first time you try it, but the third or fourth time you try it, it'll at least feel comfortable. The sixth or seventh time you try it, you'll be pretty good at it. The 10th or 12th time you try it, you're going to be starting to be feeling, yeah, I'm gonna mix this up. I'm gonna see if I can make an even bigger impact if I try a different style, or if I use a different story, or if I whatever. And you'll start to think, hey, this is fun. I'm making an impact on the people around me. I'm leading, right? You don't have to have a title to be a leader. Everybody helps build culture. So if you would, I would like you guys, one ask of you all. I see a few comments coming through with people giving additional comments about what were their answers to that secondhand compliment, fish for compliments thing. I also saw a couple people just coming through saying, wow, this is great information. Thank you for it. I'm going to share it with my team. If you'd be willing to do something for me, I'm piloting a new software to solicit feedback during my speeches. And I'd love for you all to give me a little bit of feedback about this presentation, if you would be so willing. You can pull up your phone and snag the QR code on your screen, or you can simply go to talk.ac/Brett, my first name. And when you get there, there's this little code on the screen that just says talk. It'll say, hey, thanks for coming, enter your code. And the code is talk, T-A-L-K. I'd love you guys to give me some live feedback about this session and just a quick rating through this app. This is literally my first time trying using this. And so I'd love just to get some feedback on there. Right when you go to the site, it'll ask you can uncheck a box to not be a part of our mailing list. If you guys are attending these events, you probably are part of our mailing list. So maybe that's not the perfect thing to mention. But if you just go through there, give me a little feedback, take a whirl, and even provide a little feedback in the end on even if you like the experience of me asking you to do this. That would be great. But please take a minute to do that for me. And then I'm going to close our webinar with some final takeaways. Edward asked if these meetings are recorded and posted anywhere in case people are unable to attend. They should be. They should be being recorded. I know the meeting was when I started it, it was being recorded. I'm not seeing presently that it's showing that it's being recorded. I don't know if that's because of my screen share, the way I have it set up, that I'm just not seeing that right now. Oh yeah, it's being recorded as well. So it'll be posted after the fact. You should get an email from us that just says, hey, thanks for coming, or hey, if you missed it, here's a link where you can find a recording of the webinar. Sometimes it takes us a day or two to get those posted. Thank you, Cassandra, for letting me know that it says recording. It usually says that up in the corner of the screen when I'm not screen sharing. Obviously, it goes somewhere else when I am. So. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have had a chance to go to the QR code or to go to talk.ac/Brett. And it's supposed to take you like a minute to do. Hopefully it was pretty easy. For those of you that did it, I appreciate it. I'd love to know what you think of that. I want to conclude my talk sort of back where I started, which is with this idea that employee pride is at the heart of company culture. We believe in 7 principles of leadership at BetterCulture. And those principles are focused on, I'm going to give you the overview of those 7 things, just so you have context of where pride fits in. But principle 1 is about always showing up focused on mission, your culture, and the pursuit of excellence. Principle 2 is all about building an environment where staff feel proud of their company and know their company is proud of them. So pride and appreciation. The third is about growth. How can we show up in a way to help our employees, our peers be more successful, both at work and in life? Principle 4 says, and I apologize, I don't have this on the screen for you, but it says that we leaders are people who protect the right of good employees to work with other good employees. And you don't have to be a manager to protect that right. If you want your team to show up at work and be a part of a great organization, you've got to protect them from people who are negative or cynical, who don't do their job. It's our job to hold fair and reasonable standards. Otherwise, culture suffers, the workplace suffers. Number 5, we make decisions in an open and collaborative way when possible, and we communicate about why those decisions are made. Principle 6 is about being comfortable with conflict, and principle 7 is about having fun at work. Well, 1 out of those 7 principles is all about pride. So if you can become a master of finding things that people would be proud of knowing how to tell a story, or help the company get the credit, or deliver a secondhand compliment, or fish for compliments, or especially just communicate information that people wouldn't otherwise know, bring them under the tent, you'll start to realize and become a master at building pride. And you'll realize that it's fun, that it's a fun orientation to work, is to show up and say, hey, how can I do my job, and how can I help other people feel great about where they work? So that's my conclusion. I will finish with a Q&A for anybody that has questions or put anything in the chat. I would love to answer it. You can use the chat or the Q&A feature. We have 4 minutes left for those of you that are that want to make it all the way to the buzzer. If you don't have questions or you don't want to stick around, feel free to sign off, and just thanks for being here. I have one question just said, do you do this in, should onboarding be a great spot to build pride? And yes, absolutely. So when you are onboarding new employees, whether you're a manager or part of HR, et cetera, people will never be more primed to want to hear great information about why they decided to work here than right after they got the job and during onboarding. So if you have great stories, if you have great information to share that people would be really proud of, onboarding is a great time to share it, but don't only share it there, because people are overwhelmed at onboarding. They don't remember everything. Keep telling those stories afterwards. And that's when it becomes management's responsibility to keep telling great stories. Your HR team can only touch people for the first couple of weeks, and then they kind of lose them. It becomes everybody else's responsibility at that point. Well, thank you guys for being here. I don't see any other questions coming through, so I must have covered it. I really appreciate having such a great group. Thanks again to our chamber partners and the other folks that are spreading the word about BetterCulture and helping us make an impact community by community on making the world a better place to work. I'm Brett Hoogeveen, co-founder of BetterCulture. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.